Okay, in this video we will be talking about the concepts under government intervention. That is the per unit test. We'll go through the concept this time. Okay, maybe you already know that in Hong Kong, the alcohol, the cigarettes, that means the tobacco, they that will be charged by some taxes by the Hong Kong government. But that is a common sense. But the problem is why the Hong Kong government imposed the taxes on these items. And at the same time, the government will try to provide subsidy. They try to provide subsidy on some items, especially for the education places, the university or the higher diploma. But why on different services or goods, sometimes they give money, they offer some money, but sometimes they charge, okay? That means we have to understand what is the purposes of the tax and the subsidy on different goods and services. Of course, reasons we can simply have the answer like that. Or alcohol, cigarettes, and healthy things. Education is important thing for the people, so they provide tests on the unhealthy things because they want to stop people to use that. Because education will more provide to more people, so they try to subsidize it. Okay, by common sense, you can understand that. But today we will go through deeper on how the purpose of this can be achieved, but by providing tests or offering subsidies. So what is a test? Actually, tests can be charged on two basic ways. Okay, the first one is according to the per unit. Per unit, that means the government will charge you based on how many bottles of wine you bought or how many boxes of cigarettes you bought. Okay, so every bottle they will charge you a fixed amount. Okay, for example, $10 or $5 on each boxes. But another way that would be based on the percentage, but that is not in the syllabus, so we will not go deeper. This time we only focus on this per unit test. And one way you have to understand the operation about this, because the test, although the government want the consumer to pay more, but actually to be more convenient, they will collect the tax from the producers. Okay, that means the producer, they will try to tell the government that, oh, how many bottles of alcohol I sold, then I will pay you the per unit test together. Okay, so and at the same time, the producer will try to charge the consumer with a higher price in order to get the test. But the tricky thing is, for example, if the test is $10, the producer have the option to choose whether they charge $10 more to the consumer, or only $8 more, or $5 more. They can choose that. So under this arrangement, the focus of us, we should think more about not only the quantity transfer, because before, by common sense, we all, I understand that tax make the price higher, then people will buy less, okay? But actually, more things we should consider more. We also want to know about what is the total revenue. Does the producer can get more total revenue, or the government can get create a higher total revenue, or the tax amount, how much is the tax, and how to determine the tax burden. And the tax burden is really quite new for you, because most people do not concern about that. But actually, as we say, the consumer, the producer can charge the whole tax amount to the consumer, but they have option, they can charge only partly. So we want to know that what factor will make the consumer to pay more or less. Okay, so we try to go through step by step. First, for the very beginning, and the per unit test will change the supply first. But how does it change? Okay, let's say in this case, the government is supposed to impose a per unit test on this line. Maybe the government just think that, oh, why people so like this disgusting toys, okay? But and also it will be harmful for the health of for the kids, okay? So they try to provide tests on that. Then what is the effect on the supply? Let's think at the beginning. Original quantity is 10, and equilibrium prices are $5. And if that is a test about $1, what will happen? And the quantity of 10, the producer will think that I need to collect $5, so he have to charge the consumer $1 more. So he will try to increase it by $1. That means maybe here, then to charge $6 in order to get in order to get in $5 revenue. For example, if that is 11 here, then originally he only charged $6, but in order to get $6 after the test, he have to charge $7. That means he have to charge $1 more. Okay, so $7 here. Then if that is 12, he has to originally he charged $7, but he have to charge $1 more. So that is he have to charge $8 this time. So according to here, we got all the new points on this new supply curve. We try to line them up, and it will become S2. Okay, and this time is that going to left, or we can set that because every distance that is $1 each. So actually it is going up, moving upward. To conclude that the supply decrease, okay, supply decrease after the testing position. So now after you understand that, okay, the supply will decrease, supply decrease, what happened next? How about the price, quantity, and the total revenue? Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's go. We in this diagram we try to put the supply curve on the top, on the upper part of the demand curve, so that we can show the elasticity of demand is elastic. Okay, so we try to draw the supply change. We understand that the supply will decrease or go upward. Okay, go upward after the imposition of a test. So we have a new equilibrium here. We can get a Q2 here. We can get a P2 here. Oh, Q1 is not here. Sorry, P1 should be here. So after that, we know that the price increase, quantity decrease, and at the same time we have a plus here, a minus here to show the change of the total revenue. The blue one is the gain, and the green one is the loss. Okay, so we can see that the blue part is smaller. Smaller than the green part. Okay, so that means the gain is smaller than the loss. Okay, so we can understand that after other things, when the tax is imposed on the goods, the supply decrease, then the price increase, quantity decrease. The total revenue will decrease when the demand is elastic. Okay? And at this moment, because it is a test, we have to identify where is the test amount. So where is the test amount? Because this distance is the test of the per unit. So P2 and this point here, okay, this 2 point, that is a per unit test, and the times the quantity. Q2 is the quantity under the test, so times the quantity, this area, that would be the test amount. Okay, and the rest will be the net test revenue. Okay, that means the total revenue that the producer collected. Then after they pay to the government about the test, then the revenue left, that is a net total revenue. Net total revenue, or the post-tax total revenue. Okay, that will be equal to P. Oh, that's not P1. This is P3 here. P3 Q2. That is an advanced one. If you don't really understand this part, just leave it behind first. Okay, so let's go to the another scenario. In this scenario, we will find that the equilibrium in the lower part of the demand curve. That means the demand is inelastic. Okay, so here, what happened to the change? First, the test make the supply curve go upward. We have a new equilibrium. You have Q2 here. Q1 is not here. Q1 should be here. Okay, then we have our P2 here. Price increase, quantity decrease, just the same as the previous, but that is a plus, a minus. The plus part is the blue one. The loose part is the green one. This time you'll find that the green and the blue, the gain is more than the loose. Okay, so total revenue increased this time. So we have to conclude that after this test, the supply decrease, the price increase, quantity decrease, just the same as before, but the total revenue increase when the demand is elastic. Okay, so that means whether the demand is elastic or inelastic, that really matter because the total revenue result will be different. And that is another, the last part, okay, that is talk about, okay, we know that we need to pay the tax, but part is paid by the consumer, part is paid by the producer. But whether they pay that equally, but of course the answer is not, that is some factor affect them. Okay, I can tell you that the factor is the elasticity of demand. So in this diagram, you can see that there is a normal demand curve, and on the upper part of the demand curve, that means it is more elastic, right? So the elasticity of demand is elastic, and for the elasticity for the supply curve, we can see that the slope is a little bit sharp. Okay, it's a little bit high. If the supply curve become more closer to be vertical, then it will be less elastic. So we can know that the elasticity of our supply is closer to be inelastic. So the elasticity more likely is that the demand, the elasticity ED is higher than the ES, okay, in this diagram. And so after that, we try to do the same thing about the test, okay. So we try to decrease the supply. That means it move upward. Then we have a new equilibrium. We found the P2. Also, we found the Q2. Then go up, go down about the Q. Then after that, we have to find a new quantity, the vertical distance between the S1 and S2 intersection. That is a P3, okay? P3 is the intersection between the Q2 and S1, okay? The new quantity, but with the old supply, okay? And we will find that that's a distance between the supply, the producer, and also, but after test, okay? Then, this is the test amount. The whole green square is the test amount. But for the test burden, we can show that here. This part belongs to the, because this blue part is the between two equilibrium, so it should be belongs to the consumer. It should be consumer test burden. And after that, the lower part, this one, because it is not the equilibrium, this between the equilibrium, so it should be the producer. The producer afford this tax amount, pay this tax amount, okay, to the government by their own revenue. So here we can see that at this time, consumer is smaller. The tax burden is smaller than the producer. Okay, when ED is bigger than the ES, we will find that the consumer smaller than the producer tax burden. Okay, let's see in this case, we have a normal demand curve. Okay, so elasticity of demand depends on which part is the equilibrium. Then we will find that the equilibrium is on the lower part, so elasticity of demand is inelastic, more likely. Then you can see that the supply curve that is more flat. Okay, the slope is lower, so it is a high elasticity of supply. So to compare them, inelastic for the demand, elastic for the supply. So electricity is the supply is bigger than the demand. So here, then after that, we try to draw the second part. So draw the change, move upward. Okay. After test, move upward, new equilibrium. Okay. Then O equilibrium. So P1, Q1, P2, Q2, move upward. Then the quantity move decrease. Then we look at the new quantity and the distance between S1 and S2. So that is a new interception point at this amount. That is P3. Okay, so the whole green box, that is the test amount, and this test amount is divided by this line, the P1. Okay, so the upper part, that's right, the upper part here. Okay, let's see, the upper part is the area between the equilibriums. So we know that this belongs to the consumer, and the lower part is not the equilibrium, it's not the gap between the equilibrium, so it is producer test burden. Okay, so here we can see that the consumer test burden this time is bigger than the producer test burden. Okay, so we have found that the result is quite different from the previous. Previously, in the previous page, we talk about electricity demand is bigger than supply, so consumer will be smaller. Consumer test burden will be smaller. But this time, when the electricity of supply is bigger, is smaller, then the consumer test burden will be bigger. So we can understand that the relationship is in different direction. So now we try to conclude what we learned in this concept. Actually, we only talk about the effects of the per unit test. Okay, so we understand that when there is a test here to impose on the good, that supply will decrease because we will move upward. Okay, and the price will become higher according to the diagram, and the quantity transferred will decrease, then the total revenue. In the previous chapter, we know that the P times Q equal to TR, right? So when the total revenue change, but according to what we have here, the price increase, the quantity decrease. So total revenue should be unknown. So we have to depend on the elasticity of demand, right? So if the demand is elastic, so who win? Elastic, that means the winner is the quantity, right? So if a winner is quantity, that means double arrows for the quantity, and the final result will be drop. So the demand will, when the demand is elastic, then the total revenue will drop. So what if the demand is inelastic, that means the quantity, the consumer have a little response, so the change of the price will win. Okay, so it will double arrows for the price, so only one arrows for the quantity. So winner is the price, then the winner is moving increase, so increase. Total revenue increase when the demand is inelastic. Okay, according to the diagram we draw in this video, we found out that the elasticity of demand or supply, it will create have a different direction with the test burden. So lower elasticity, then they will have a higher test burden. Okay, so and if the consumer burden will be bigger than the producer, when consumer, that means about the demand, if it is bigger, so its elasticity of demand should be smaller, or if the test burden of the consumer is smaller, that means this one, the elasticity of demand should be bigger. Okay,